Welcome back to, we're calling it the vendor table.
The vendor table.
All right, we updated the name.
I love it so much.
I mean, like, we were kind of like undecided on, well, you were locked in.
I was locked in.
I was undecided.
But then you said this.
I think it sounds better.
Now I'm locked onto this.
Yeah, no, I kind of like this a little bit better.
That's so endearing. The vendor table is such a quality space.
I mean, yeah.
It's a safe place.
When you get a vendor table.
When you get one.
Have you like been to a wedding recently where you actually sat at a vendor table?
Yeah. I
Yeah?
have. Actually, Crest Hollow.
Crest Hollow always gives the vendors a table.
They always give the vendors a table.
Fun fact, I got married there.
I know.
I got married there.
Not my favorite place.
It's not my favorite place either. As a vendor, it's not my favorite place.
No. Sorry, Crest Hollow.
Great place to get married.
But I would never shoot there again.
Yeah, same.
And be totally happy.
Totally happy. But it's nice that they provide a vendor table.
It is very nice. That's one of the only reasons I would.
Yeah.
Probably the only reason.
The last time I had a vendor table was actually at Janine's wedding, Janine Lombardo, who's a wedding photographer. And she made sure that there was a vendor table, which I thought was really cool. So
That's very sweet.
You know, vendors appreciating other vendors. So we had our own table, which was really nice with like little place cards and all that stuff. That makes you feel appreciated.
It does make you feel appreciated. Take notes, people.
So
If we feel appreciated, we do better work.
We do. So we renamed to the vendor table.
Vendor table.
I kind of like it. So we're gonna kick this off. So, all right. So we kind of in the last episode talked briefly about this. We were talking about trends and
editing.
Trends. We got a little.
We
emotional.
touched on it. Yeah, tensions were high.
Yeah, we got really emotional about trends. Really emotional.
I'm still emotional.
You're still emotional about trends. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more blurry photos, and I'm like, oh god.
There's also so many more that we didn't even talk about.
Yeah.
So
Oh god.
It's going to be a part 2 at some point, but for now.
So, but we're going to talk about something you mentioned in the previous episode, but I kind of said we're going to talk about that later, which was editing identity crises.
How often do you feel like you have an identity crisis with your editing?
Once a fucking year.
Once a year.
Once a year. I feel like I'm inadequate at life and I should just quit.
So once a year. I mean, that's great. I have one about once every 4 seconds.
Really? That often?
If I'm editing a session, guaranteed I'm sitting there going, I don't know if I want it to be like this, like over and over and over again.
Really? Mm-hmm.
If it's a regular like golden hour session, let's say at a park or a beach or something, then I'm like, all right, I know what I want this to look like all the time, always. Okay. But if the weather shifts or it's at a location I don't normally shoot at and it feels different, then I'm like, uh-oh.
See, I don't feel like what I've seen with your work recently, I'm going to say recently, is it's very you. I don't feel like you have a crisis. I don't like, so like you have your style defined. Like, I feel like it's very like you.
I think that's where the identity crisis comes in.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question because I have my own editing identity crisis, but I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you get an editing identity crisis? Is it because you see like another photographer's work and you're like, what the fuck? Why can't I do that? Or is it because...
I think it's more like I'll do a session, I'll edit it in like my normal style, like that warm, like sort of cinematic-y, filmy vibe, a little bit bold, a little bit colorful. And then I'll get to the end.
I'm going to call you that from now on. Bold and colorful.
Fuck. Great.
Keep
it's like
going,
the opposite of what I am as a person.
Bold and brilliant. The Lauren O'Brien collection.
Why does it sound like a shampoo?
Totally sounds like an ad from the 90s.
Bold and beautiful.
Bold and brilliant. So what you call your presets?
Also kind of sounds like a toothpaste.
It does. It's like a Crest or a Colgate.
All right. So going back to that, like I'll edit a whole session in that style and then I'll just be like, this isn't right. And I'll start over from the beginning, completely redo it with a different, not style, I guess, but like different vibe. And like the most recent one I can think of is like when I did a shoot at Montauk and it was really foggy out. And I started doing it in my normal editing. Like I have my own presets. I put my preset on it. I started going to town. And then I got to the end and was like, fuck this. I hate it. So I started over and did it more like, I put grain on it. I put grain on it.
Like
which is a trend I really don't love.
Unintentional grain.
I did. I put grain on it and I made it look a little bit more muted, more like bluish. And I don't do bluish tones or cool tones.
I don't feel like, I never see
I really don't.
cooler tones from you.
But I did it that time and I really, really loved it. But then I looked at my feed and that's where I started having like problems. I was like, oh, this doesn't look anything like the rest of my shit. And what if people see this and they don't know it's my work?
Editing identity crisis.
I'm having a freaking identity crisis.
I think this plagues every photographer at some point in their career. And I think it happens,
Way often.
Like for me, it's once a year. And it's usually this time of year, the slow season. Because what happens is I look at all my work that I've compiled over the last year and I'm putting together my updated portfolio and I'm adding images to my website. I'm like, that could be a little warmer. That could be, what was I doing here? Things like that. So as I'm adding photos to my portfolio, I'm like, I kind of want to change things. And I'm like, wow, why am I doing that? Why? And it's not, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction to something, to seeing it. Because when you see things all the time and you're like, you see things all the time, or you see it like, I would say, even in this scenario, like you see it and then like you see it once and then you see it like 2 months later.
Oh God.
And you're like, what was I thinking?
Why did I do that?
Yeah, that happens to me all the time with like when I send clients teasers. So after a wedding,
I do that too.
Yeah, right? Like, isn't that crazy?
You send a teaser and you're like, and then you go to edit the like whole thing together and you look at them and you're like, what the fuck did I do here?
What was I thinking, right?
Why?
So that happens to me a lot. So I'll have a slight identity crisis in that regard. But I think I have a big identity crisis once a year where I'm like, man, I could really, like I see somebody else's work and I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like cinematic kind of look is kind of cool now. And it's like, we talked about this fucking trends and shit like that, like following a trend.
They try to suck you in.
It sucks you right in. So with...
Not today, Satan.
It's like, leave me alone.
Get out.
Editing identity crisis happens, it could happen more often. Like you could have it at a session, like after a session, after you edit, and then you want to edit it all over again because you're like, what the fuck was that? And I want to re-edit. So you could have that, or you could have, I think, an identity crisis like I have, which is once a year, where I'm like, I'm going to evaluate my whole editing workflow, my presets, my whole
shebang.
Yeah, and just be like, I'm going to change it up a little bit.
I feel like like if you look at your website or you look at your Instagram feed or anything like that, you could tell like there's so much good consistency. It's just like so pleasing to look at. Whereas
you're talking to me?
Yeah, you.
Really?
Yes.
Shut up.
No, for real.
Really?
Like I look at it. First of all, if anyone can tell like who follows you or at least admires your work in the slightest, can immediately tell what a Michael Casera photo looks like when it pops up.
Oh, I said this.
Be like, doink, that's Mike.
Well, I said this to you as well. I feel like it's the same thing with you.
But I don't get that.
But I do. Like it's like
what am I missing?
It's Heather's photo, same thing. Like
oh yeah, you
Heather,
can tell immediately with her.
Yeah, like Heather, never there yet, like an incredible photographer. Her photos stand out to me. Caitlin Ferris, same thing. Like her photos stand out to me, very like golden, warm, like just like full of light, full of love. Like I could pick out her photos from in a crowd of 20 and know it's hers. I feel like that with yours too, because it's like you have like a kind of edge and moodiness to them. So I think we need to get out of our own way at times. And I think this is any photographer, right? You got to get out of your own way. And when you have an identity crisis and you have an editing identity crisis, right? It's almost to the point where you have to think about it and stop yourself from proceeding from changing your look.
Yeah, no, you're right. You need to like pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't even know what my look is. Like your tones are
bold
like
and beautiful.
Oh fuck! I'm never gonna live this down.
Because you're worth it.
Trying not to spit all over the microphone. Yes, bold and beautiful. Oh, some of my photos are like I would say they're more like bold, colorful or whatever. But like, then there's some that are more on the muted side or like that. No one is going to know what I'm talking about, but you will. The one, the maternity photo on the beach where it's like all blue, very dark, moody, like that just came out of left field. I didn't even know. I just was like, I really like the way this looks, so I'm going to post it.
Yeah.
And it's going to go out looking like this. So I don't know, man. Like,
I think I think editing identity crisis also stems from the way you shoot too, right? So when you think about it, like if you're shooting golden hour all the time, like I know photographers that they don't shoot if it's moody out, if it's a cloudy day. Oh God, did I just like, it's just like,
who are you?
It's just like kicked you in the face or something.
I want a word.
Bite you. No, but
I want a word with these people.
I do know several. I'm not calling you out, people.
Oh my
you know who
God.
you know who you are. But there are photographers that a cloudy day is not their style. I get it, but we don't live in San Diego where it's sunny and 75 all day.
Love a sunny day.
But so you're going to have different styles being where we are, like being, I'd say 90% of the country has different looks and feels, right?
Yeah.
So I think shooting style blends into editing style, and that's where people have that editing identity crisis. Because like you just said earlier, you know, when I edit a golden hour photo, we know what it's going to look like. Yeah. Okay. You know, it's going to like be that consistent. But when you have maybe a slightly different look, or maybe like, you know, the sun's a little higher at that point of day, it might be.
And then my editing shifts.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that affects your style. And I think, you know, we think of editing identity crisis also as a fact that like it's not consistent on our Instagram.
Oh my God, doesn't it like make you grit your teeth in anger that you even have those thoughts? Like my Instagram feed is all over the place.
Yeah, you know, I used to, and now it doesn't anymore. It used to bother me that, you know, I'd see all these like young and up and coming photographers that were following trends that had like very consistent feeds. Like everything was like, you know, the same coloring and I was like, wow, that's like, and
it's an aesthetic.
Yeah, it's an aesthetic, and clients would flock to that day to get a lot of followers. Honestly, a lot of photographers would follow them more than I think clients. But you know, when I look at my grid now, it's not that I don't care so much about that. I just want to post really good shit. You know, I want to post a really good fucking photo.
That's the shit right there.
Right? Emotional. Right? Like so we're going to talk about
beautiful.
It's so good. Oh my God. We're going to I want to do a whole like social media episode and like how to be better at social media, because I feel like I'm pretty good at social media, but I'm not.
I'm shit.
Like you're actually good at social media. You're just not giving yourself enough credit for it.
That's it. I'm imposter syndroming.
Oh fuck.
I am.
We talk about that too.
We're going to talk about that. We're not done with this one yet. But
yeah. But I would say with it, okay, so like we'll get into imposter syndrome, but with an editing identity crisis, if you're facing that as a photographer, all right, what are ways to overcome it? How do you overcome it?
I kind of, well, first, like in any situation that I've had, like where I'm feeling like I maybe am not editing in a consistent style that I think resonates as myself and my work, I've actually like sent a couple of photos to like either you or other people that I consider like my peers. So like I've sent work to Heather Never There Yet before. She's like my other go-to.
Heather Never There Yet. We're gonna
Never There Yet.
We're gonna refer to Heather.
Heather There Yet.
Heather There Yet. Hey Heather, how you doing?
Hi girly. I send stuff to her all the time because I literally am just like, I don't know if this looks like anything I've ever taken. Like, does this look like something I would take? And she was like, well, you took it, so like, yeah.
Just matter of fact.
That is not the way that she says it. She's like, oh yeah, that does look like something you would take. It's great. I love it. And then that's it. That's my impression of Heather.
Okay.
She's gonna hate that.
Okay. I love it. But how do you overcome it? Like, so how is it?
No, I think maybe it's just like the validation
so you
from
need the
someone.
validation.
I do. Like I need sometimes I do need validation from like a friend in the industry.
You need
to tell me like I'm being crazy.
You need the high five. You need the...
A little bit, yeah. Who doesn't need a high five or a pat on the back?
Yeah. Okay.
They may not tell me that it's good, but they will tell me it looks like my work.
Yeah. But that's good. That's a good way, you know, to overcome it. Just like showing it to somebody else, sharing your work with somebody and
Yeah.
saying like, hey, does this, what do you think of this? Does this look like my work? Does this, or you could ask that question, or you could be like, do you think it's good?
Yeah.
It's the scariest thing to ask.
I'll also sit in front of the mirror and just yell at myself over and over and over again until I get it.
You should record that. Should really
Listen up,
record.
you stupid bitch. You're really good at this.
Wow.
Get it together.
Wow.
It
Get your
helps.
shit together, Lauren.
helps.
Well, listen. So I think so. For me, I will say this: editing identity crisis. How I overcome it is it's tricky because I face it all the time. I'll face it after teasers. I'll face it when I deliver a full gallery. I'll face it. It's really in the off season when I do face it in the slow season. I keep saying off season. It's never off season. Slow season, people.
Slower.
Yeah, slower season. But how I overcome it is this. So I take a step away from the fucking monitor for 5 seconds.
Good idea.
Right? Isn't that like the way to do it? You step away and like go into another room. Like leave it up. Leave Lightroom up. Leave Photoshop up. Okay? Step away from it. Look at something else. Look at emails, whatever. And walk away, go back to it. Does it still look good, or do you want to change it? And if you're changing it so much every time you step away from it, then you're having an identity crisis. You need to really take a step back, reevaluate your workflow or your editing, and adjust. And like maybe it's a shooting style, maybe it's your preset if you want to adjust that.
Or maybe you've just been staring at it for too fucking long.
100%. And I think that's really where it comes down to is like when you stare at your work too long, especially as an artist. Ugh, I just love saying
An artiste.
The photographers are artists.
Fetch me my beret.
Excuse me. Let me drink my decaf coffee.
My mango beverage.
Your mango pulp beverage.
Mango
That
pulp
sounds
beverage.
awful, by the way.
It's called Boing.
Wow, boy.
It's fun.
It's our newest sponsor.
It's bold and colorful, like me.
It's our newest sponsor of the podcast.
Boing.
Wow, we need.
Hearing you say boing was really satisfying.
Boing.
Boing.
Okay, but I think step away. All right, step away from the boing. Step away from the computer. Step away from your screen. Reevaluate everything. And
I have a question.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
it's important.
It's important that I answer your question.
It is important because it relates to stepping away from the computer. So, in your office where you do your editing, is it always a consistent lighting situation?
I try to keep it that way. I try to.
Is it dark or light or medium?
It's medium. So I have windows kind of behind me and to the side. Mm-hmm. So usually when I'm editing, I shut the window behind me because it reflects off the monitor. This is like anal stuff, like where I'm
anal stuff.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Get your head out of the gutter, lady.
Never.
But if you have a window behind you, it's going to glare off the monitor. It is going to change.
Anal stuff.
Anal stuff. Fuck. It's a PG podcast. It's really not a PG. Is it? No. Absolutely not. Explicit warning. We're going to do that in our photo shoot. I can't.
Keep this away from the teens.
Yes. But
the youth will be poisoned.
I will say this. So if you're editing and you notice that your work, it doesn't feel consistent, it can have to do with like where you're editing.
Situation.
Like a lot of photographers, like they're laptop based. So they're editing on their laptop, they're editing on their couch or their desk or wherever. And notice that. Like if you're editing on your couch and you feel like, hey, like I like my style, like when I'm editing here a little bit more than at my desk, what's the differences there? Is it the lighting in the room?
Yeah.
Does that have to play? And these are very minimal things.
Ooh, also if you're due for a calibration.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel like calibration is standard, and I think all photographers, if you don't know about calibration, you should look it up, and you should calibrate your monitor.
Oh my God, if you don't know about it,
and get your colors right. But I also think that one, you should do that standard. Like if you're a photographer, get your colors right, get your monitor
once a month.
Yeah, once a month. I haven't calibrated my monitor in 4 months.
Michael,
it's terrible. I haven't though. I haven't.
4 months?
4 months. 4 months. It still looks good.
And how do they still look so beautiful?
I don't know.
You fucking piece of shit.
Wow. Jeez, you're just coming at me with this one. Okay. Well,
Doesn't calibrate his monitor for 4 months and everything looks perfect.
Well, I think so. People with Macs, by the way, people with Macs think like their screens are perfect every time. They're fucking not, people. They're not. So calibrate your MacBook Pro or your iMac or whatever.
Calibrate your everything.
Calibrate your everything. So I don't edit on.
Calibrate your life.
I have a Mac Studio and I have a BenQ monitor. The BenQ monitor is calibrated. Now, talking about calibration and how it affects your editing and giving you an identity crisis, because I'm going to keep referencing it because I think it's very important to the episode.
Crisis.
But so I think a lot of people don't realize this, but when the shift came to printing your photos, right? Clients printing their photos.
Oh, you're going old school here.
Oh, I am. Okay. So when I started 10 plus years ago, more people were printing their photos than they were, displaying them on social media, right? So calibrating was very important to print. Now, I would say if you're calibrating, it's more important to
Display.
Well, it's more important
to post.
Where do people see their photos the most?
On the internet.
Where? What
on their phones.
On their phones.
Yeah.
Okay. So 90% of the world uses an iPhone, right? 90% of the world uses an iPhone.
True.
Okay.
90?
90.
Have you checked those facts?
Yeah, Matt, fact check me. I'm pretty sure it's like 90% of the world is iPhone based. Okay.
That sounds like
it's crazy, but it's true. And maybe it's just the US. But
watch, 90% of the world is on like
I'm gonna look this up. And
Nokias.
They're not on Nokias. Nokia was a great phone though.
It was a solid phone.
Has 27.6% market share globally. 57% in the US. So
Okay.
So it's half.
Okay. So.
Okay.
But still,
90%.
Okay. I was off by a little bit. Okay.
By just a couple percent.
I was off by a little bit, 30%. Fuck you. But when you think about it, people are viewing their photos on their phones more than they're viewing them.
Yes.
In a print format.
People don't really use computers as much as
they don't.
It's all on your phone because it's a small computer.
Exactly.
In your
So
phone.
I think it's important to have like your editing styled to look good, not on multiple devices, multiple screens, all of that stuff. Like I have 4 monitors in my office because I'm a gigantic nerd, and I love like computer monitors. Yeah, I have 4. I play video games. Leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. Okay, but I have all those monitors. One is calibrated to photography. My MacBook Pro I haven't calibrated in quite some time, but I look at it just to give a good reference, and it's the closest to that. My gaming screens are totally off, like they're vibrant and colorful and all that stuff. I kind of look at my photos on those because I know out of my clients looking at their photos, some might have their screens look like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it scares the shit out of me because I'm like, wow. If you're looking at my photos
it gives me a panic attack, actually.
So I try to keep my editing style kind of like at a point where it's going to look good on multiple monitors, multiple screens, as well as phones, because I want it to look really good and stay consistent. Now, the last thing I will do is when I export a photo, or if like I'm sending a teaser, because I send a teaser via text message, is if it doesn't look good on that, I'll send 20 teasers via text and the rest via computer.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That's personal.
Yeah, I'll give you little tips and tricks to that.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay. So that's like my last line of proofing is the phone. So if it doesn't look good on the phone, I'll go back and re-edit. And I'll know it will look better.
Yeah,
I
think I'll send like a couple to my phone before I send it out just to check, double check. But yeah.
But I think
the phone has the final say.
The phone does have the final say, because these things they do have the final say.
I'm a slave to you.
Yeah, 100%. Now,
pocket tyrant.
God. Now I do want to kind of wrap things up on this episode.
Okay.
Because I think we've been going for like 20 something minutes, something like
tempting.
that. Matt, how long are we going for? 26 minutes. See, It's good.
Solid.
See, solid.
We're doing it.
We're doing it.
We're getting there.
I have like a really good mental clock, like mental time.
I can do that with most things, but not like life things.
I don't know.
When it comes to work, like if I know an hour shoot like is done. Like
yeah, you kind of could.
Isn't that weird?
It is weird.
Our brains are trained for that.
They
like I can't tell you how many hours ago I had breakfast. Or what I had for breakfast.
But
I didn't have breakfast.
Did you have breakfast? I didn't have breakfast today.
I didn't eat until that burrito 40 seconds ago.
Wow. I will say this. So wrapping it up on our editing identity crises, okay? Circling back and just, if you are having one as a photographer, as a vendor, right? Like you get like
any vendor, this is applicable across the board.
Like planner, florist, whatever, right? It's applicable to multiple scenarios in the wedding industry. If you're having that identity crisis and you feel like you aren't yourself or you're trying to be somebody else, take a step back, reevaluate, just like pause for 30 seconds, a minute.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, that pause will make you question that change or what you're doing.
Go read a book.
Go read a book.
Watch a movie.
Watch a movie.
Go do something. Then come back to it. You'll probably feel a lot better.
Circle back.
Circle back.
Circle back.
We'll circle back.
We all do it. We've all been through it. So just
ask a friend.
Yeah.
Phone a friend. Circle back.
Send it to Heather. Never there yet.
Never there yet. Heather there net.
Heather's gonna really
Heather
appreciate.
Hairnet.
She's been mentioned a lot in this episode.
Because I love her.
But no, circle back and like realize that it's not the end of the world if you take a step back or you don't deliver that day or if you really need that.
Yeah.
We've all been there. We've all dealt with it. It happens. Just stay the course. Stay the course. That's a good fucking word.
Do what makes you happy.
Stay the course.
Bold and colorful.
Wow. We're updating our slogans on our website. Here we go.
Oh, this is so cringy.
Oh, it's so cringy. But wrapping this up, right? Keep it consistent. Stay the course. Be bold and beautiful.
Anal.
We're going to end it on that. We're